Well, we made it. It's time for me to embarrass myself. Let's go. What's up, Flick fans? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm giving you my Oscar nomination predictions. We're going through all of the categories, wrapping it up with Best Picture, and let's see how many I get wrong.
Some kind of freaky little something wackadoo.
Also, I got new glasses with the blue light blockers, but I didn't think the lenses would be yellow, so you're gonna have to get used to this.
What the hell?
Because I can't see anything without these. So shout out to my YouTube buddies, the Oscar Expert and Brother Bro. I mean, look at this app, Awards Expert. If you don't have it, you should get it, but it lines everything up perfectly, so that's what we're using. Here we go. If you like these nomination predictions, dropping a thumbs up is the best way to support this video, and stay tuned for my reaction on Tuesday morning. We're starting with Best Song, and one of the more simplified categories and one of the easier ones to predict. For a while, I had Keep It Moving from The Color Purple, but I just feel like The Color Purple across the board isn't going to get that love, and these 5 songs, you know what they are at this point, have basically been nominated in almost everything. The only one I really questioned was The Fire Inside from Flaming Hot, but it kept getting those nominations, and I think this 5 is basically set. Next up, Best Score, or the Oppenheimer is going to win this category. Oppenheimer is obviously number 1 here, followed by Killers of the Flower Moon and Poor Things. I believe those 3 are locks, and at this point, I would call Spier-Verse a lock. It has so many nominations, and it is very clearly one of the best scores of the year. The only one I'm questioning here is The Zone of Interest, and that's because, on the other side of things, you have John Williams for Indiana Jones. And even though The Zone of Interest, it's been surging as of late, and nomination after nomination, you can't look past the fact that John Williams is a beloved figure to the Academy and Indiana Jones. While this movie, a lot of people didn't love it, the score is so iconic, and he did revamp a couple of things, so I was kind of torn for a while. But then, you know, you get to the BAFTA nominations, and I'm like, okay, if Indiana Jones gets a nomination here, maybe we start to talk about things a bit more, and it didn't. Saltburn got a nomination. So I think it was all hinging on that Zone of Interest, like I said, crushing it everywhere. Golden Globes here and there. I don't know how I don't put Zone of Interest in here, especially when I think the Academy is going to show a lot of love to this movie. So I'm going to go Zone of Interest over John Williams. It could go either way. Here are my nominees for Sound. Oppenheimer, yes. Maestro, that movie, you just look at it and you're like, yeah, I get why that's in Sound. Ferrari, people have been loving Ferrari. I think Ferrari is the only one to get both sound editing and sound mixing from those specific guilds, Oppenheimer being the other movie, of course. But that basically tells me that Ferrari's in no matter what. That's why I have it slightly above the Zone of Interest. But what do we know the Zone of Interest for, other than how powerful the story is? It's how incredible the sound mixing, the sound editing is. So sound feels like a reasonable category to put that in. Once again, comes down to the 5 spot, and I have that between Napoleon, Killers of the Flower Moon, and The Killer. And part of me was waiting on seeing what was going to happen at the BAFTAs. Now, Killers of the Flower Moon did not get it at the BAFTAs, but they also didn't really like Killers of the Flower Moon. So I'm like, well, I think the Academy is going to feel differently there, but that could affect it. If Napoleon would have gotten the BAFTA, I would have said, yeah, Napoleon, that's a shoo-in, absolutely, but it didn't get there, even being one that I thought the BAFTAs would love. Killers of the Flower Moon, I believe they got Cinema Audio Society, so okay, you have that, but then you have, like, the showcase of the sound design from The Killer, the fact that they're focusing on that one scene, that one fight sequences, and everybody's kind of raving about that and have been raving about that, and it got one of the 2 guilds. I can't remember if it was mixing or editing. Napoleon got another one, but The Killer just feels like a movie. If it's going to get a nomination, and it's David Fincher, if it's going to get a nomination, I believe this is the category. Now, it could easily be left out for Killers of the Flower Moon, and if the Academy goes for the Scorsese movie, like I think they may, Killers of the Flower Moon can be in there, but I feel like I have to be different here, and everybody's kind of predicting the same things on Twitter, and I'm like, I have to stand out. So, The Killer's my 5, but it could go any of the 3 directions. Visual effects, one of my absolute favorite categories, and there are a few things you can look at here. The first one being the Visual Effects Society, and across the board, the creator, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, that's in. Precursors, Visual Effects Society, it has everything it needs, so those 2, they're in. Everything else is, I don't know what direction this is going to go in, folks. This is one of the harder categories to predict because part of me wants to say that they go with the big blockbusters like the Mission Impossibles and the Spider-Verses, and I think a lot of us were wanting Spider-Verse, me included, to get in, and it did a couple of the precursors, but it's just not been getting the love across the board like some of these other movies have, and I could say the same thing about numbers 3 through 5, but I feel like they need a prestigious nomination here, and Society of the Snow would do that, so I'm going Society of the Snow as the prestigious nomination. A lot of people have Poor Things on this list, and I don't know, I mean, that could also be the prestigious nomination. I don't know if Poor Things is going to get the love in this category, just because there's a lot less visual effects in this movie compared to the other movies that we're talking about here, being Godzilla and Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible. And Mission Impossible getting in at the BAFTAs, that's like, okay, we could be talking about Mission Impossible here instead of Godzilla. But then, do I want to break my own heart and not put Godzilla in this top 5? And no, a Godzilla movie has never been nominated for visual effects at the Oscars, even though you think back to some of the other movies, and yeah, the visual effects are outstanding. This one's different, though. This is not only a phenomenal film, but it just feels so distinct from other Godzilla movies, and it's been getting some love in these precursors, right? Unexpectedly so, because the movie came out so late, and it wasn't even Japan's choice for their film to submit for the Oscars for international features. So Godzilla is on this surge right now, and the report just came out how much money it made and extending time in theaters in the United States. It's getting a black and white version. I'm like, how do I not put Godzilla on here at this point? I would feel weird not doing it, but again, there's a good chance it doesn't get the nomination. And then Mission Impossible and Indiana Jones, I just feel like the voters here operate just a bit differently than the BAFTA voters would. And the question here is, what do Academy voters like more, Disney or Tom Cruise? And, you know, they didn't give him Best Actor last year, so screw him. I think they like Disney more. Makeup and hairstyling. Again, the first 3 are very obvious. I'm going Poor Things, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Golda. What is that? Well, the Makeup Guild said, yeah, we're going to throw this in there. And as soon as they said that, along with Oppenheimer and some other films, I said, yeah, we're going to put that in my predictions because it makes sense with the history that we have. So that's at number 4. I think number 5 is a bit more up in the air. I could go Napoleon. I could go Killers of the Flower Moon. I have Killers of the Flower Moon missing a lot of these categories. It's a little shocking to me, but ultimately I'm going Society of the Snow. You look at what they did with the makeup in that film, and the fact that the movie is surging right now, this is the perfect time for it to get some surprise nominations. I believe this is one of those, for some people, surprise nominations, right? Again, it could be Napoleon, it could be Killers. I'm going Society of the Snow. Costume design. This one is a little more obvious, I guess. Barbie, Poor Things, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Napoleon. Some people are going to be surprised seeing Napoleon sneak on a few of these categories. And I guess some are going to say, where's Maestro? I just feel like I could see how Maestro could get in there. I don't even have it in the ones that could get on. I just feel like it's not going to happen. Call me crazy. But Napoleon's gotten in almost everywhere. And the BAFTA, just one thing after another. I feel like that should not surprise anyone when it gets maybe 1 or 2 Oscar nominations. But yeah, this one's a little more simple. Production design, the top 4 are easy. Yes, Killers of the Flower Moon finally getting some love here. But the zone of interest, the BAFTA kind of cemented that for me. And I look at some of these other films here, and Wonka just wasn't as beloved as maybe I wanted it to be. The Color Purple is again getting snubbed in multiple categories. I think it's going to, at least. And then Asteroid City, that movie just kind of tanked across the board. It did okay with critics. I thought it was pretty good movie, but compared to what we usually get from Wes Anderson and that production design nomination for a lot of his movies, I don't think it's happening here because people just didn't respond to that film as much, and Zone of Interest is going to get plenty of nominations. All right. A lot of this was hinging on what was going to happen at the BAFTAs, and the first 3 films for me were always in. It was always Oppenheimer, The Holdovers, and Killers of the Flower Moon. I think those are the 3 movies that are in heavy contention for Best Picture right now, and you can usually align that with this editing category. The other film that I think is in heavy contention for Best Picture, and I don't know, it didn't get a lot of love at the BAFTAs, I didn't expect it to, but Barbie's still in it to win it for me, and I would say just a little more than Poor Things. And because I think just a little more than Poor Things, for it to have a chance at Best Picture, it really does need to get this editing nomination. So I'm putting Barbie in my 5th spot. Now, The other movie in here that's going to get a lot of love in multiple categories and got that BAFTA, which I thought was so important for this category specifically, is Anatomy of a Fall. As soon as it got the BAFTA, I said it's in no matter what. It's either the 4 or the 5. I don't know. But because I'm so up in the air between Barbie and Poor Things, I'm just like, I don't know where I'm going to go. It ultimately comes down to which film do I think has the better shot at Best Picture. And the answer for me, look, not my favorite movie of the year. This is just prediction, Austin. This isn't taste, Austin. Still liked it. Barbie. All right, here's Austin contradicting now what earlier Austin said, and that is a snub for the zone of interest. And that snub is coming for a movie called El Conde? El Conde? El Conde? The first 4 locks. This is Oppenheimer's award to lose, in my opinion, but it really does come down to these 2 movies, 5 and 6. And Zone of Interest got the BAFTA, which it got a lot of love at the BAFTAs, so, you know, it's going to get nominated in numerous categories. I know I'm literally contradicting what I said earlier, but hey, I have a good reason, because the ASC said, hey, we're going with this one. We're going with this movie, and that's a pretty big deal. It reminds me of Bardo, what happened with that film. So that was a surprise for a lot of people, and this ceremony will have surprises. And I've been pretty chalk so far, so I got to switch things up. I said The Killer, and now I'm saying El Conde. I don't know. Am I wrong?
Maybe.
But I'm going 5, because the ASC is really important. Animated feature. Spier-Verse is in, The Boy and the Heron is in. Those are the 2 movies that are competing. I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is pretty in at this point. That's become well known, I believe, for a lot of voters. And I would also say another movie that is a near lock for me is Nimona. Nimona did very well at the Annies, and it's a film that people have really started talking about a little bit more. Suzume is one of my personal favorites of last year, that people have started talking about a little bit more. And a movie called Robot Dreams that had 0 precursors did really well at the Annies. You could also look at, the voters here, and a lot of the times they will go for stop-motion movies, and they'll just throw one in there randomly. So Chicken Run, which I thought was fine. But the film that inevitably and ultimately gets in, one that was snubbed from the Annies, but I still think it makes it in there, is not Mario, it's Elemental. I think the Pixar movie gets in. Now, we've seen the Pixar movie get snubbed before, and Pixar's not what it used to be. Okay, absolutely. So, Suzume getting in would not shock me, and frankly, I would be tickled to death if that film got in, because I think that film is absolutely phenomenal. But, the Oscars normally, they don't go for anime as much, and we've already got The Boy and the Heron in there, so it's like 2 anime films. Wow. I just think the Pixar movie, I don't know how the Pixar movie doesn't get in. And Elemental was a good film. Was it one of the best I've ever seen from Pixar? No, but it was good. So it kind of deserves it. A lot more than Wish. The movie sucks. Documentary. I don't do the crazy amount of research for this category, and frankly, it's not one that I focus on because I'm much more about the scripted movies when it comes to nominees and nominations. But of course, I'm going to have them on my list because why would I not predict a category? Except for the shorts. Dang it. The top 3 are set, in my opinion. I was questioning 4 Daughters for a while, but it won the Gotham Award, and I'm like, okay, we'll put that on there. The other 2, not as set. I do think it's a little bit of something to monitor, at least, that American Symphony is going to get a song in there for Best Song. That doesn't necessarily tie it into getting a nomination, but I'm going to put it on there regardless. And it got some love at the Critics' Choice. This movie called Going to Mars got the IDA, Indie Spirit, PGA, like it just keeps getting these awards, and I'm like, how do I not put it on there? A lot of people have The Deepest Breath. A lot of people have Still, the Michael J. Fox documentary, which I thought was absolutely brilliant, and I loved. Maybe my favorite documentary of last year, that American Symphony, but the Michael J. Fox movie is just, it's not doing how I wanted it to do, and there's always a documentary every single year that doesn't get a nomination. I'm just baffled by. That will probably be the one here. I do think American Symphony could be in trouble with movies like Bobby Wine, The People's President, which also got a few of those that I mentioned for Going to Mars. I just think Going to Mars got a little bit more, and it's hard to see American Symphony not getting in. As much as this movie's been talked about, The Deepest Breath, I hate not putting it on there because it feels like everybody has it on there, but not me. I'm insane.
I'm a psycho.
International feature. The first 3 are fairly easy for me. The Zone of Interest, Society of the Snow, one of my personal favorites of last year, and The Taste of Things. Those have been very consistent. The other two films not as confident in, but 20 Days and Maripol, I'm like, yeah, that's gonna, if it gets in over here, it's probably gonna get in over here. The fifth spot, I have no clue. I want to put Perfect Days on there because Perfect Days is a really well put together movie and it's been getting a lot of love, but I think it's been getting more general love than voter love. And so I can't quite put it in that 5 slot. Fallen Leaves is a film, and there have been a couple of snubs for Fallen Leaves. So a little surprised that it didn't get the love that I expected it to. And, originally I think Fallen Leaves was number 2 on my big board, and then I saw Society of the Snow, and it was number 3. But now it's at 5. And I'm not super confident that it gets in. It could, frankly, be any of my honorable mentions, but I just, it's such a toss-up. I'm going with that and seeing what happens. Adapted screenplay. This really hurts the zone of interest, the fact that Barbie switched over to adapted, because it was such an easy 5 to predict after I realized that All of Us Strangers wasn't getting in. But now it hurts me to leave off the zone of interest, because I know it's going to get a lot of love on Tuesday, but I don't know what to put it over. I can't put it over the recently surging American Fiction. I can't put it over Poor Things and Barbie that are locks. Killers of the Flower Moon. It's a Martin Scorsese picture. What do I put it over? I just can't do it. I'm going with the stock chalk 5 that have been the 5 ever since Barbie came over to this category. I feel a little iffy about it in my heart, but my brain tells me, no, Austin, you got to be all in. And I am. This one is not as set in stone. Now, you're going to think I'm insane, but again, everybody's predicting the same thing. And, I couldn't do it for something like adapted screenplay because frankly, it's too hard.
That's what she said.
But I can do it here. I've been showing bias towards Air the moment I went to my screening, and I've been doing it for the last 8 months. So why am I going to stop? You can't stop me. And I know what's going to happen. And as soon as Air doesn't get the nomination and May December gets it, everybody's going to go, Austin, I knew Air wasn't going to get in. And you know what? I will sit back and I'll say, fine. No one appreciates Air like me. And not Air That You Breathe, the movie. And it's fine. And I get it. And I understand it. But I'm holding out. And I hate predicting based off of hope. I hate it. I think it's stupid. As a man who gambles all of his money away because of sports, I think that's a dumb thing to do, yet I still do it, and I'm doing it here. And I'm gambling very heavily that Air is going to get in over May December. Why do I say that? Well, I think the top 4 are safe. It's hard for me to imagine Anatomy of a Fall and Past Lives and Holdovers and Maestro not getting in. It's really tough. But May December, it doesn't feel like it's a movie, and part of me is thinking, well, of course the script's a lock. People have been loving the script for so long, but it doesn't feel like a movie that Hollywood is responding to at all. At all. I love May December. I would put it over Maestro. I would put it over a lot of the original or the adapted screenplays nominated, and maybe I would put it over Air in terms of just the screenplay, not the movie itself. But here's how I see this going. The Academy and Hollywood, the way this movie plays towards them and what it's about and kind of what the movie is, I feel like some people are going to watch it and almost get offended and almost not want to vote for it. And because that's how I'm starting to feel about some of these, acting categories and the fact that Charles Melton may not get on here. I'm like, man, people they just don't really like this movie in Hollywood, do they? And so this could be a stupid prediction, and it probably is a stupid prediction, but I have to be different. I can't keep doing the same thing that everybody else does. And so Air has always been on the outside looking in. May December has always been on the inside looking out. But because of the specific voting body not wanting to give May December maybe as much love as other voting bodies, that's the way I'm predicting it. And maybe they come through for me, and they make me look really wrong here. I hope that's the case, kinda, but at the same time, I'm not going to be mad if Air gets on there, baby. Come on. And that's where we come to supporting actor. And because supporting actor is one of those where everything's just a toss-up beyond the first 3. The first 3 are easy. It's Robert Downey Jr.'s award to lose. It's Ryan Gosling's award to sneak in there and win. Don't think it's going to happen. And it's Robert De Niro's 3rd place. It comes down to the poor boys. Do the poor boys get it, or do the poor boys not get it? Is it 1? Is it 2? Skiddly-doo? Here's part of my dilemma here. I just don't know who to take off. I don't know if I go with Mark Ruffalo, who was surging for a while, not as much as of late. Willem Dafoe, who is surging now, but didn't get a ton of those precursors at the beginning. He has more recently. Do I go both of them or do I go none of them? Do they cancel each other out? I don't think that's going to happen. If they do, we're looking at Dominic Sessa and Sterling K. Brown over those two. I believe Charles Melton's time is over. And about a month ago or 3 weeks ago, I was saying Charles Melton could win the whole thing. The heck happened? Well, it's that May, December. People just don't like May, December as much as I do, so that kind of stinks. But I just don't know who to take off here. And because I don't know who to take off, I don't think I can take off anyone. Now, you all know every bit of my well-being depends and hinges on Dominic Sessa getting this nomination. But if I just start to think about it and who Mark Ruffalo and Willem Dafoe is, how long they've been in the industry, and how people look at them, how do they not get in here? You know what I mean? Dominic Sessa, it's his first time being in consideration. It's his first performance. So I think that's going to keep him from getting that nomination. It sucks, but that's how a lot of people vote. Then you have Sterling K. Brown, who swooped in recently and got that surprise SAG nomination. So I'm like, okay, Sterling K. Brown, he's in it to win it. But who do I take out? And so I don't know what to do here, because if I take Ruffalo out, then it's like, well, Ruffalo was on top of the world for about a month there, and he was a shoo-in. If I take Dafoe out, well, he was on top of the world within the last 3 weeks, and he is the leading poor boy. I don't know what to do. And then a little piece of me thinks that Sterling K. Brown could be the big surprise of the day. But I just don't know who it would be over. Part of me believes De Niro hasn't missed all year. Part of me believes De Niro could get Irishman. He could get Irishman, but I just don't know, guys. This is one of the toughest ones. It's the one I feel worst about. And so, where the is Glenn Howerton?
Supporting actress. I don't know what to do.
All I see is yellow. Randolph's your winner. Blunt's in. Brooks is in. Finally, The Color Purple gets some love here. I think Jodie Foster's in. I don't feel super confident about that, and I don't like it, and I'm not happy about it. I would much rather see Julianne Moore, Rosamund Pike, but I just think Jodie Foster at this point, people are loving her performance for Naiad, and she's been getting nomination after nomination. Austin's sitting here about to rip his hair out. I'm tired. Look, I love Jodie Foster. She is amazing. And, it's not going to be every time Jodie Foster's in there, oh, there's a surprise Jodie Foster nomination. That's not going to be the case. But I think it is going to be the case this time around. And you could say the same thing for Penelope Cruz, who I have in my 5 spot. And I'm not super confident about this. I'm going Penelope Cruz because she just recently got in that conversation. And if you look at the performance, it's a very Oscar baity performance. The lines, the line delivery, the over the top, and I'm going to hold a gun to your head, and all those really just over the top Oscar baity type. And she's great. I'm not taking anything away from her. It's just that's how she was written in the movie, and she delivers. She does everything she needed to do. And it's hard for me to look at Sandra Hüller and say she's going to get a double nomination for actress and supporting actress. That's hard to do for anyone. Now, she's brilliant, and I believe she probably deserves that 5th spot over Cruz, but it's tough for me to put her in. And then the other one would be Pike for Saltburn, but Saltburn is a film that I just don't know if Saltburn's going to get the love at the Oscars that it did and that it has for some of these other, like a Critics' Choice Awards, right? And so I'm going Penelope Cruz. Don't feel great about it. And once again, maybe I'm relying on that same feeling that I got a few years ago when it's like, surprise, Penelope Cruz is in there. Is that going to happen again? Statistically, no, but I'm doing it. Screw it. Actor. This one is surprisingly easy. Austin, surprisingly easy? What are you talking about? Well, Giamatti's in, Murphy's in, Cooper's in, Domingo's in. Domingo, a lot of people have in that 5 spot. I have him in the 4 spot because he just hasn't missed.
In the heat of battle, he don't miss.
No.
In the heat of controversy, he don't miss.
Coleman Domingo hasn't missed. And yeah, okay, you've got a movie in Rustin that's not going to get a Best Picture nomination, not anywhere near that. And so part of me is like, well, yeah, they would obviously go for the 2 guys that are getting Best Picture nominations in Jeffrey Wright and Leonardo DiCaprio. But Coleman Domingo hasn't missed. And it feels like it's his time. And he gave another great performance in The Color Purple, a movie that has a better shot at a Best Picture nomination compared to Rustin. So I'm going Coleman Domingo at 4. It just feels so obvious at this point. Jeffrey Wright is one that I could say Leonardo DiCaprio could come in. And it's Leo, man. How do they not nominate Leo? They've just not been nominating Leo. I don't know what it is about his performance or the movie or the character that he played. Yeah, he's playing a scumbag character, but so is Robert De Niro, and he's pretty much a lock, right? So I think Leo's out. And I could question Coleman Domingo being a better performance than Leonardo DiCaprio. I would give the edge to Leo, to be honest with you. And I have Wright in the 5 spot because he's not been racking up awards like Coleman Domingo has, but I think Jeffrey Wright is easily one of the best performances of the year. And so it doesn't shock me that Jeffrey Wright is going to get this over Leo. It doesn't shock me at all. He's phenomenal. And I think he's a guy that's been overdue for a performance like this, for a movie like this. And so I believe Jeffrey Wright's in as well. And frankly, the only other person that I throw in the discussion is Zac Efron, but he doesn't have any precursors. That's just me wanting Zac Efron to get in. And Zac Efron being one of the best performances of the year. And I don't understand it. But this 5, to me, is easier than people are saying it is. Actress. This one is a little more tough. I'm not as confident in that 5 spot. 1 through 4, yes, even though Gladstone did not get the BAFTA, which again shocked me, surprised me, caught me off guard. I think that just made it a little less likely that she wins. I don't think it makes it less likely that she gets the nomination. So Stone, Gladstone, Mulligan, yeah, they're all 3 pretty much in at this point. And Sandra Hüller, again, it's harder for me personally to see a double nominee there, but yeah, she's absolutely getting it for Anatomy of a Fall. That is an amazing, spectacular performance. It's so difficult for me to see how the star of Barbie, the biggest movie of 2023, a movie that is going to get nominated for multiple Academy Awards, does not get in. When Ryan Gosling gets in, when the music and the song and all of these things are getting in, and it gets a Best Picture nomination, it gets a Screenplay nomination, and the star does not get in. And Margot Robbie, she's been doing fairly well. I mean, look, she hasn't gotten every nomination, and you've got Greta Lee as a nice competitor there, and even Fantasia getting in more recently, and I guess you could say Annette Bening, okay. But I think Margot Robbie is pretty far ahead of the competition at this point, until I heard about Anjanou Ellis-Taylor for Origin. And then I said, a movie that started surging a little later. People have had screenings, celebrities, big-time names at their homes and trying to get this movie out there. It's a very famous director. It's a story that is very timely and compelling. It's a movie that a lot of people are really enjoying, and it does remind me of Andrea Riseborough last year in To Leslie, a nomination that came out of nowhere. But then you started looking into it and all of the people talking about her and pushing her with these last-minute screenings, and it's a very similar thing that they're doing with this performance, and Origin is a movie that more people are talking about. Now, was it too late? It may have been too late, because voting happened, and this was all happening within like that week building up. But I think there's a good chance. Call me crazy. You're probably right. You know what? You are right. You're correct. I am crazy. But a part of me wants to put her in. I want to put her in. I want to cause chaos. And then I want to be the only man on Twitter getting it right. Imagine if I do it. Imagine if I switch it right now, and you all said, Austin, you're nuts, and then it happens, and then you say, you were a genius this whole time. And then Unfortunately, I'm not a genius. Unfortunately, I'm chalk. I'm the same old. I'm everything you've seen before. I got to keep Margot Robbie in there, because I don't see how the star of Barbie doesn't get a nomination when Barbie is getting in everywhere else. So, okay, well, I want to do it. Austin, why aren't you fighting more for Greta Lee, who's had a great campaign and is one of my personal 5 favorite performances of the year? I just feel like, she didn't even get in at the BAFTA. The other performance did. So I just don't think it's happening. So there's my 5. Director. Okay, here is where I also think that I could be wrong here. And here's why. I think the top 4 are pretty locked in at this point. Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Killers, and You know, Jonathan Glazer, Zone of Interest, has just been getting the love. I mean, love after love after love, and it's hard for me to say that Glazer is not going to get it at this point. Again, Zone of Interest is one of those movies that I believe is going to have that massive amount of love, right? So those are the 4. Then it comes down to the 5 spot, a movie in the holdovers that I believe has a good shot, not the best shot, not even close, but a good shot at winning Best Picture, and is a favorite right now at the moment. It's surging. Why would you not nominate that director? And so I know a lot of people have a lot of thoughts about Alexander Payne, and this is not me talking about Alexander Payne's life and what he's accused of and all of these things. And frankly, my love for the holdovers has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the movie itself and the direction of that movie. And as a director, I can see why he's getting into this 5th spot. But it's kind of tough seeing, no Greta Gerwig, especially for me, no Celine Song on this list. I believe Celine Song deserves to be somewhere in this 5. It's just, can Song make it over some of these others? But more likely it would be Greta Gerwig getting that 5th spot over Alexander Payne. And if people vote that way, then I believe it could go in Barbie's favor. And so this 5 spot is not a lock by any means, and I think Alexander Payne could be in trouble with Greta Gerwig for Barbie. Gerwig was a lock for a while, but she just hasn't been getting the love that Payne's been getting. And frankly, I'm going with the direction that things are trending right now, and that is that The Holdovers is being looked at as a movie that has a phenomenal director. And so those are my 5. It's hard for me to lock those in, but I have to, because this is it. Finally, Best Picture. We have some categories and some subcategories. I would say the biggest one is, what movie's the front runner? Well, you know what the front runner is. It's Oppenheimer. This movie's going to get so many nominations, and in my opinion, it's going to get a lot of wins. So Oppenheimer, we're locked in. That's the favorite. What's Oppenheimer's biggest competition right now? I believe it's The Holdovers. I believe The Holdovers could actually give Oppenheimer a run for its money. We have to see what nominations it ends up getting, but there's a really good shot. The next film, the biggest competition, I could move this down a little bit if Gerwig doesn't get that nomination that I don't really expect her to get, but I still think Barbie is such a beloved movie that it's going to provide at least a little bit of competition and people to go, okay, Barbie has a little bit of a shot here. And so I got Barbie 3rd. Killers of the Flower Moon, it's a Scorsese picture. I don't believe it's getting as much love as maybe I expected it to. I thought for a while it would be the direct competition for Oppenheimer. It's not that, but it's definitely in there. Poor Things is also pretty much in. It's in that subcategory of lock. It's a lock. Poor Things is getting in. The performances, the production design, everything about the movie, it kind of leads me to believe that there's no chance that it doesn't. At this point, I would say the same thing about American Fiction. I'm surprised every time it gets nomination after nomination, and I shouldn't have been. I never should have been shocked, because from the beginning, American Fiction has been getting the love. And it's another lock for me. Past Lives is a lock. Past Lives is a movie that everybody's talking about. People are showing a lot of love for. They're not necessarily giving it the love in the acting categories, which I think is a little questionable, but everywhere else, the screenplay and really just the aesthetic, the vibe of the movie, it's working for a lot of people in A24. It's a studio that, well, they've put a lot of their marbles into Past Lives, and not The Iron Claw, which should pretty much be on here. Maestro. Look, I know Twitter or X is not super high on Maestro. I personally am not super high on Maestro. I think it's a pretty good movie, but I do believe there are a lot of issues, a lot of faults, and would I have it in my top 10? No. But what's most likely to happen? Maestro's been getting so much love, and if you didn't believe already, seeing all of the love it got at the BAFTAs, that's pretty much confirmation for me, as well as the BAFTA love for Anatomy of a Fall and The Zone of Interest. 2 movies that have been teetering on the edge for quite a while. And, a lot of people are saying movies like The Color Purple and Air and possibly Saltburn, possibly Cross the Spier-Verse. I just don't see how those movies... look, there is a path. There's a path for Spier-Verse that it gets Best Picture. Would I love that? Yeah, you know how much I love that movie. But I just don't know if it would get in over an important film like Zone of Interest, a flawless script like Anatomy of a Fall, and 2 movies that have a lot of precursors and have been surging as of late. Color Purple really nowhere to be found. Saltburn, kind of. Air, a little bit. Air's chances are dead. Color Purple's chances are almost dead. And Spier-Verse, well, it's not happening. And so I'm not going to sit here and say this is the easiest Best Picture 10 that I've ever predicted because, I mean, I think I got them all right last year, and I got one wrong the year before that. So this could be the year where I get 5 wrong. Who knows? But I feel way more confident this year than I have any years prior, and I've got a pretty good track record. But I'm not straying away from what a lot of people are saying. Everybody on Twitter is saying the same thing. It's just I'm of that same mindset, and I would be crazy to put a movie like Air in my top 10. Nope, can't do it. Can't do it. Well, I am crazy, but I can't do that. Okay, so I've been filming for an hour. This is a long video. I apologize for the length. That's what she said. No. Comment your thoughts on my lists. What do you think the surprise nomination is going to be? What do you think my glasses make me look like? A loser? I promise I'm going to get a haircut soon, too. Thanks so much for watching this video. Love you guys. If you want to drop a like, that'd be great. If you don't, whatever. Just hit the notification bell because Tuesday morning, it all goes down. I'll see you soon.